Have you ever wondered why certain people leave you feeling drained, unsettled, or somehow diminished after every encounter? Why some relationships, no matter how much effort you pour into them, seem to pull you further from peace rather than closer to it? Perhaps you have noticed that while some companions elevate your spirit and encourage your virtue, others consistently ask for things that erode your inner harmony and disturb the natural order of your life. Confucius understood this fundamental truth about human nature. He taught that we become like those we choose to keep close, that our character is shaped not only by our own choices, but by the influence of those who surround us. The Master said, "When we see men of worth, we should think of equaling them. When we see men of a contrary character, we should turn inwards and examine ourselves. But what happens when those of contrary character persistently seek things from us that compromise our very foundation?" Today, we will explore 5 specific requests that should serve as clear warnings, 5 demands that reveal the true nature of those who make them. These are not mere preferences or innocent asks. They are tests of your boundaries, probes into your character, and attempts to draw you away from the path of righteousness. When someone consistently asks you for these things, they are revealing that they do not seek your highest good, but rather their own convenience at your expense. The wise ruler learns to distinguish between subjects who serve the kingdom and those who seek only to exploit its resources. The devoted son learns to recognize which companions will help him honor his parents and which will lead him astray from filial duty. The student of virtue must understand which relationships nourish wisdom and which feed only confusion and moral compromise. This is not about becoming cold or distant from others. Confucius never taught isolation or hardness of heart. Rather, this is about cultivating the discernment that protects your ability to serve others genuinely, to maintain your integrity, and to walk steadily along the path of virtue. For how can you offer your best to the world if you allow others to constantly diminish what you have built within yourself? The first warning sign comes when someone repeatedly asks you to compromise your principles for their benefit. This might appear as small requests at first, seemingly harmless exceptions to your usual conduct. Perhaps they ask you to bend the truth just once to help them avoid consequences. Maybe they request that you set aside your commitments to assist with their urgent needs that somehow always arise at inconvenient moments. Or they might ask you to participate in actions that you know, deep in your heart, go against what you believe to be right and proper. The person who truly values your friendship will never ask you to betray your own nature. They understand that your principles are not mere preferences, but the very foundation upon which your character stands. When someone consistently pressures you to act against your moral compass, they are revealing that they value their immediate desires more than your long-term well-being and spiritual development. Confucius taught that the superior person stands firm in righteousness, even when it brings temporary discomfort or social pressure. Those who ask you to compromise your principles are asking you to become smaller, weaker, less than who you are meant to be. They may frame their requests as loyalty tests or signs of true friendship, but wisdom sees through such manipulations. The second dangerous request is when someone asks you to constantly rescue them from the natural consequences of their own choices. This person approaches you again and again, not seeking guidance or wisdom, but demanding that you shield them from the lessons that life is trying to teach them. They want you to provide money when they have spent unwisely, to cover their responsibilities when they have been negligent, to solve problems that they created through their own lack of discipline or foresight. True compassion sometimes means allowing others to learn from their mistakes rather than preventing all discomfort. The parent who shields the child from every consequence raises a child who never learns wisdom. The friend who constantly rescues another from the results of poor choices enables continued poor choices rather than encouraging growth and maturity. When someone habitually asks you to interfere with the natural order of learning and consequence, they are asking you to participate in their avoidance of growth. They seek comfort rather than character, ease rather than wisdom. Such relationships drain your resources while stunting their development, creating a cycle that benefits no one in the long term. The master taught that we must take responsibility for our own actions and learn from our experiences. Those who consistently ask you to prevent this natural process reveal that they prefer dependence to self-cultivation, comfort to wisdom. The third warning reveals itself when someone persistently asks you to validate their destructive patterns and poor judgments. This person does not come to you seeking honest counsel or genuine wisdom. Instead, they arrive expecting you to affirm choices that you know will lead them further into confusion and suffering. They want you to agree that their anger is justified when it clearly is not, to support their complaints against others when those complaints arise from their own shortcomings, to encourage their pursuit of paths that any person of virtue can see will end in disappointment and regret. The wise friend speaks truth even when truth is difficult to hear. The loyal minister advises the ruler honestly, even when such honesty might displease. But some people do not seek truth from you. They seek only the comfort of having their errors confirmed, their weaknesses excused, and their poor choices celebrated as if they were virtues. When someone asks you repeatedly to participate in such false validation, they are asking you to become complicit in their decline. They want you to help them avoid the inner reflection that could lead to genuine improvement. The teacher who tells the student only what the student wishes to hear fails in the duty of education. The friend who affirms every poor decision fails in the duty of friendship. Confucius understood that true kindness sometimes requires the courage to withhold approval from actions that harm the actor. Those who demand your constant agreement with their questionable choices reveal that they prefer the temporary comfort of false support to the lasting benefit of honest guidance. Such people will drain your energy while preventing their own growth toward wisdom and virtue. The fourth dangerous request comes from those who ask you to participate in their gossip and criticism of others. These individuals approach you with tales of what others have done wrong, inviting you to join in judgment and condemnation. They share private matters that were told to them in confidence, expecting you to take pleasure in the failings and struggles of people who are not present to defend themselves. They ask you to feed their hunger for superiority by looking down upon the mistakes and misfortunes of others. The cultivation of virtue requires that we guard our speech as carefully as our actions. When we speak ill of others unnecessarily, we plant seeds of discord in our own hearts and in the community around us. The superior person seeks to understand rather than to condemn, to help rather than to harm through careless words. Those who consistently invite you into gossip and criticism reveal the quality of their own character. If they speak freely of others' private affairs to you, how can you trust that they do not speak of your private affairs to others? If they find pleasure in discussing the failings of those who are absent, what prevents them from finding similar pleasure in discussing your failings when you are absent? The wise person protects the reputation of others just as they would wish their own reputation to be protected. When someone asks you to participate in harmful speech about others, they are asking you to compromise your integrity and to contribute to the disorder that gossip creates in relationships and communities. The Master taught that we should speak of others as we would wish to be spoken of ourselves. Those who ask you to violate this principle reveal that they do not understand the fundamental respect that should exist between human beings. The fifth and perhaps most dangerous request comes from those who ask you to sacrifice your own growth and responsibilities for their comfort and convenience. These people want you to set aside your studies, abandon your duties to family, neglect your own cultivation of virtue, all so that you can be constantly available to serve their immediate needs and desires. They frame such requests as demonstrations of loyalty or friendship, but in truth, they seek to prevent your advancement because your growth makes them uncomfortable with their own stagnation. The path of virtue requires consistent effort, regular reflection, and dedicated practice. It demands that we fulfill our obligations to parents, to community, to our own development as human beings. When someone asks you to consistently abandon these essential pursuits, they are asking you to remain small so that they do not feel challenged to become larger. True friendship encourages growth in both directions. The genuine companion celebrates your advancement and supports your efforts toward wisdom and virtue. They understand that as you become more cultivated, you become more capable of offering real assistance and guidance, not less. But some people prefer relationships where growth is discouraged, where both parties remain static and comfortable rather than challenging each other toward excellence. They ask you to prioritize their immediate comfort over your long-term development, your temporary availability over your permanent improvement. Such requests reveal a fundamental misunderstanding of what friendship should be. The Master taught that we should seek companions who inspire us to become better, not those who encourage us to remain as we are. When someone consistently asks you to sacrifice your own cultivation for their convenience, they demonstrate that they value your service more than your well-being, your present availability more than your future wisdom. Recognition of these 5 warning signs requires honest self-examination and the courage to act upon what we discover. Many people continue in relationships that diminish them simply because ending such relationships requires temporary discomfort and difficult conversations. But the temporary pain of establishing proper boundaries prevents the lasting damage that comes from allowing others to consistently pull us away from virtue, us away from virtue. The Master understood that wisdom lies not in cutting ourselves off from all human connection, but in choosing our companions with the same care that a farmer chooses seeds for planting. For just as poor seeds yield a harvest of weeds and disappointment, relationships built upon these 5 destructive requests will yield only confusion and the gradual erosion of our character. When you recognize these patterns in those around you, remember that setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty, but an act of preservation. You preserve not only your own ability to walk the path of virtue, but you also preserve the possibility that others might one day choose growth over comfort, wisdom over convenience. By refusing to enable their destructive patterns, you offer them the gift of natural consequences, which are often the greatest teachers. The superior person understands that we cannot save others from themselves, but we can save ourselves from being pulled into their chaos. We can choose companions who elevate rather than diminish, who encourage our highest nature rather than exploit our generous hearts. As you move forward, carry with you this simple truth from the Master. The person of wisdom is never of 2 minds. The person of benevolence never worries. The person of courage is never afraid. When you align yourself with virtue and surround yourself with those who do the same, you walk steadily toward the harmony that is your birthright. Choose wisely, for your character depends upon it.